Look at how your parents dealt with conflict and adversity. Just observe how did they check out? Did they freak out? Did they run and hide? Did they bury their head in the sand? Did they act out in rage? Okay, great. That's how you modeled, your relationship with life.
Power to Live More with Joe Dodds.
Welcome to the Power to Live More podcast, all about productivity, organisation, well-being, energy and resilience. I'm Jo Dodds, and I started this show to enable interesting people to share their stories about how they use their power to live more, and by that I mean to do the stuff that they want to do more than the stuff that they need to or should do. It's about creating a life for yourself where you have the energy, health and space to be happy and fulfilled, spending your time as you'd like, whether that be at work, home or somewhere else entirely. That's your choice.
Hello. My name is Ellie Dodds and I'm co-presenter, and today Joe's interviewing Dr Nima Rahmany. Dr Nima, DC, CCWP, is both a chiropractor and an educator, specialising in helping individuals and professionals get to the root cause of their physical and emotional challenges, from stressed, depressed and anxious to living powerfully aligned and on purpose. After building a successful chiropractic practice in Maple Ridge, BC, Dr. Nima sold his clinic in June 2016 to pursue his passion for teaching and coaching professionals who are stressed, depressed and anxious to transform and have their best year ever in both a private and corporate setting. Back to the studio.
Today I'm interviewing Dr. Nima Rahmany of Overview Consulting. Welcome, Dr. Nima. Thanks for joining me.
It's good to have. It's good to be here, actually, Joe. I really look forward to this conversation.
Yeah, me too. So start by telling us a bit about who you are, what you do, and crucially, where you do it.
Well, I've been a chiropractor for the last 20 years, and in Vancouver, just outside of Vancouver, Canada. And I've been kind of feeling frustrated as to getting to the root cause of why people are coming in to see me in the first place. I would notice that some patients do really great and they heal and we're able to really help them. And still others, no matter what you do, you can dance around like a monkey, stand on my head, nothing that I would do would really help them. And so it was a discovery that I made that pretty much mirrors anybody who does any sort of body work for more than 10 years, is that our emotional wounds translate to our physical ones. Mm-hmm. So any unresolved emotional wounding from our past gets stored as trauma in the body and doesn't allow us to fully heal when we keep it at surface level. And so when I made that discovery, I created a possibility that I would be able to leave the confines of my office and then start to teach the principles of why we get sick in the first place, and what we can do to actually heal. And what I discovered was that when you actually address the relationship ruptures that cause our emotional distress, starting from our childhood primary caregivers and beyond, you then are able to give the patient, the client, power where they had lost it before. It's like they've reconnected to their source, mm-hmm. their agency, because the ruptures, the emotional wounds from the ruptured relationships in our lives, they stay with us, and they will over time break down our physiology. And unresolved emotional trauma that's been very well documented, that is the underlying root cause behind most chronic illness. Mm. So we've been looking in the surface. When I made this discovery, is that in the world of health and healing, and we've been looking too surfacey at the surface, at the symptoms. And I just gave myself permission to go deeper. And 5 years ago, I sold my practice. I moved kind of onto teaching live workshops and slowly kind of move things online where I lead a global community of self-healers that learn to regulate their nervous system, heal their past, learn how to heal their attachment traumas, their attachment wounds, and then go from their relationship challenges, conflicts, relationship limbo, divorce, should I stay, should I go? They then go to feeling more connected, more clear, and then having an ability to choose their own adventure rather than having it chosen for them by unconscious complexes.
So how did that come about, as in your sort of enlightenment? Clearly, you had experiences,
Yes.
which will have prompted it. And, not all chiropractors or any of the other types of sort of body workers, that's probably not the right word. I see what
you're saying.
Would necessarily end up where you've ended up. So how did that come about for you?
A great deal of pain, Joe. An immense amount of pain and suffering. Everything was going great in my life. Married at 31, and I hadn't really dealt with much adversity. It was pretty much, amazing. I had $1 million practice, a trophy wife, penthouse apartment, BMW. I had the Persian dream, I call it. It's like, everything's going great. And then I dealt with that first adversity, which was divorce. And that really rocked me. If anyone who's listening has gone through that, really understands. And I was lucky because we didn't have kids, but it still was a huge setback for me. And that led me into a path where I was then getting into relationships one after another, and it would blow my mind because I thought it was them. It was like, well, this clearly wasn't the right fit. I'm going to go find a better fit. And I would just find the exact same patterns in every single relationship. And then finally it wasn't until, I one string of failed relationships where all of a sudden I woke up one day, in a toxic relationship. They just kept getting worse and more severe. And I woke up one day and I realized, shit, well, maybe I'm the common denominator here. I got to work on and seeing why I keep repeating these exact same patterns. Why do I keep getting into these codependent cycles in my relationships where I attract the same type of person, I show up as the exact same type of way, and I discovered it was all unresolved, unhealed attachment wounds. I thought I had done the work because I'd done coaching, personal development, and I discovered that I was doing what's called cognitive bypassing, which is trying to think your way out of, attachment issues and attachment wounds that are very much in the body. So 2 years ago, I then stopped working and I moved back in with my parents. And I decided to actually, not because, I didn't have a place. I put my place up on Airbnb, started renting it out. And I said, you know what, I got to learn exactly what I need to do to take full responsibility rather than play victim to, the wounds that I had in my childhood. So I moved back in with my parents, and I worked on resolving it. And I became, and that was the birth of the concept called becoming trigger proof. Trigger proof basically means taking full responsibility for the emotions that come up in your body. And instead of becoming reactive by, lashing out or withdrawing and stonewalling, to sit in it and to inquire and to heal the younger parts and rescue the younger parts of me that these triggers are coming up. Trigger proof doesn't mean triggerless. It means taking responsibility and being able to respond rather than react. And over a period of a couple of years, I told myself, I said, I've become very successful in work. Work is not a problem. It's just all bets are off in my personal life. So I decided that I was going to do whatever it took, whatever distance I had to travel, whatever price I had to pay to learn how to actually have a healthy relationship. And here I am. Now we got married this year and we have a little baby. So
congratulations.
So yeah, so not only I tell people, not only it's like the hair club for men, not only am I the president, I'm also a client.
Yes. And so had that manifested in physical illness for you?
Not for me, not for me. I was very lucky. I'm a chiropractor, so I take care of my body, exercise. Health was never an issue for me. Health was never an issue. The only way that would show up for me is paralyzing anxiety. So this was it wasn't physiological manifestation of like an illness like a thyroid problem or a stomach issue or anything, but for me it would show up as anxiety, which I now see as a kind of a childhood wounding and a lack of safety in the body and a dysregulated nervous system. So all of my teaching is all about first creating that sense of safety within the body, and then everything else, the anxiety takes care of itself, your health issues take care of your digestive problems. So it all starts with regulating the nervous system.
Why do you think people don't see that connection? I mean, it's something that I've known for quite a while. I developed an underactive thyroid about 20 years ago, and I did lots of research, and I can almost certainly say where it came from in terms of my emotional issues that led up to it. But I also am very aware of, I don't know, waking up with sort of aches and pains, which I don't have every day, but some days I do. And I know I can normally link that back to worrying about something or something having gone on, sort of thing. But I think that's because I've done lots of research about it and read lots about it and all that sort of stuff. And I'm quite open-minded, I guess. And I've done some stuff that's taken it away. So I sort of know, and I'm obviously nowhere near the sort of thing that you do. But many people don't even think that there's a connection.
Yeah, we're also fed a bunch of lies within the medical system, which is very pharmaceutical based, which is, there's a pill for every ill. Do you have these symptoms? It means you have this disorder. And if you have this disorder, then it takes this drug. So you don't really question your lifestyle choices. You don't question any type of conflict. You don't ask the question, these symptoms that came up, like I guarantee you, Joe, that when your thyroid symptoms came up, if you trace back 6 months to a year prior to that, there was a conflict that you had endured that was stored in your body that wasn't expressed. And thyroid is in the throat chakra, which is, you are suppressing your voice. You weren't speaking up, which probably explains why you have a podcast now. It's a perfect, it totally makes sense to me. But a suppressed voice, like one of my clients, was going through some major conflict at home, and she has extreme amount of rage, but she's been hiding it from her children because she doesn't want to rock the boat and have the children not, really absolutely love their father. So she suppressing and hiding that rage. And well, guess what? Well, that energy, that emotional energy, that psychic energy doesn't just go away. It's not something we can avoid. You either face it, feel it, and express it, or it will show up as illness in your body. And the reason why we don't make the connection is because, first of all, there's a couple reasons. First of all, it's a big leap for a lot of people because we think, oh, thyroid problem. What did the blood test say? Okay, well, what does the doctor say? Doctors are just kind of like, it's just symptom and pill, and there's no real connection between the mind and the body with doctors. Really, they talk about stress, they go, oh, it's just stress. They pay it lip service. We know that there's a stress there, but there's a huge gap between what the doctors learn about how to deal with that trauma and what the literature says, that all of these illnesses are caused by unresolved emotional trauma and unresolved emotions that are trapped in the body. And so many people, another reason why is that people don't know what to do about it. I mean, do you go to a psychologist? And I don't think going to talk therapy is actually going to be helpful. I mean, it's helpful to talk to somebody, of course, but there's no tools, there's no accountability. It becomes really challenging. So the problem is, the reason why it's not understood is because Well, it's changing. First of all, people are now starting to get information with social media and
Mm.
following accounts on Instagram and YouTube channels like mine. People are now going, "Holy cow! I never realized that there was a link. I didn't realize that my digestive issues, which started when I was 8 years old, had anything to do with it. But come to think of it, my parents divorced when I was 7, and then I started getting these digestive issues.
Mm. Mm.
It's like, you think it's got something to do? Then the next question is, well, what do I do about it? Do I just go talk to someone about it? And the answer is no, you don't just talk to somebody. You actually learn how to go in and feel the emotions that you haven't learned how to properly address. So the second reason why this is so poorly understood is that growing up, in all likelihood, you were raised in an environment of children are to be seen, not heard.
Mm.
Spare the rod, spoil the child. So when you've had big emotions come up, you were told, don't cry. Um, uh, it's okay, don't cry. Or you hadn't had your reality validated. Your feelings and emotions were invalidated, or they were shamed. So you were taught to actually suppress them.
Yeah.
So that's really tough. That's really tough. So people don't have the training. And we're all, excuse me, we're all going around in circles trying to feel better. But the real answer is to get better at feeling.
Mm. Mm. And you mentioned that you'd sold your practice. Did you go through a period of time where your patients didn't know what you were doing because you were asking them questions that weren't about the aches and pains?
It's actually really funny story. I had a patient coming in, extreme amount of neck pain, and I could see from her body language she was tense and angry, and I'm adjusting her. Second visit, she comes in, it's no better. By the third visit, I told her, I said, listen, I believe there's something deeper here. I have a workshop coming up on Saturday. I really want you to come in and let's address the issue. And I never saw her again. I started creating these workshops. When I noticed this, I started creating these workshops in my office. And I would invite my patients. Some would, some wouldn't. The ones that would had amazing results. She just happened to go, screw this, get out of my head, just fix my neck. I don't want to have anything to do with you. So she left and I never saw her again.
Yeah.
Well, as it turns out, 8 years later, I sell my practice because I was tired of these conversations. I didn't want to work with people who didn't really want to get to the root cause. I
Yeah.
just wanted to go deeper with people. That's just my evolution. And so here I am in Canadian Broadcasting Corporation headquarters in downtown Vancouver, doing a talk to a group of entrepreneurs about nervous system regulation. And the organizer invited his family, and so they're sitting there, and this woman was present at the talk.
Yeah.
After I'm done, she walks right up to, after I was finished my presentation, she walks up to me, she goes, do you remember me? And this was 8 years prior, by the way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, actually it doesn't ring a bell. She goes, well, I came to see you 8 years ago at your chiropractic clinic. And I said, oh. She goes, and I said, ooh, I don't remember. She goes, I know, I only came to see you 3 times. And in my mind, I was like, shit, what did I do?
Yeah.
Did I hurt you? Did I adjust you and it caused you pain and you hated
Yeah.
me and never came back? She said, no, actually, I felt like you were trying to get in my head,
Yes.
and I just had a neck issue going on, and I felt like you were trying to get in my head and I wanted no part of it. But now after listening to your presentation, I now realize, I was going through a divorce and I was in a really bad place.
Yeah.
And the last thing I wanted to do was to face my shit.
Yes.
And she looked at me and she was like, I'm ready now. And so
Yeah.
she then jumped in and we started working together.
Mhm.
And healed her digestive issue, her anxiety. She went off of her anxiety medication that she was in for 25 years because we went back and healed her childhood wounding, which was a guilt and shame about her behavior and her addictions as a teenager, and resentment towards her mother. And so we cleared all of those emotions, the shame, the guilt, the resentment, and all of a sudden her body just was better. And that was probably the greatest validation that I can recall. It was like so huge to experience as a
Mhm.
practitioner.
Yeah. So talk us through how you transitioned then from sort of delivering a service, if you like, to what you do now. Obviously, in the meantime, you sold the practice, but it's quite a transition,
Oh
even
yeah.
with the evolution, isn't it?
Midlife crisis. It was age 40. I'm having a midlife crisis. Just gone through a divorce, and I'm like, geez, I don't really want to be dealing with surface bullshit. I want to get to the root cause. I mean, it's not surface bullshit. It's very real. It's amazing getting a chiropractic adjustment, adjusting people, being able to change lives. I just wanted to go deeper. So what would happen is uh, I started with these little workshops in my office called Life Skills for a Stressful World. So these were like Saturday morning workshops that I would invite all my patients to. A lot of them really were so grateful for the education. I love teaching. I discovered I just love teaching. And some just wouldn't show up. And the ones that wouldn't show up didn't get better faster. The ones that would they just took responsibility. They had awareness and they got better. So I discovered I really liked teaching a lot more than coming in on Monday morning and just dealing with bad backs. And so slowly that 3 hour Saturday morning workshop, as I kept developing, it turned into a 1 day event, which then turned into a 2 day event. And once it became this 2 day event, and I created a methodology, a simple to follow methodology, which helps you heal the emotional attachment wounds, taking the trigger, which basically it's a self-inquiry tool that is both cognitive and somatic in the body, that allows you to access the trigger and go back to its origin when you were younger, and then do a series of cognitive and somatic based and inner child type of based tools that help you resource that younger part of you and integrate it back into you when it was fragmented because of trauma. And once you've reintegrated that part of you, acknowledged that part of you, that abandoned part of you, all of a sudden, your trigger in the present moment, your challenge, your lack of clarity opens up, and all of a sudden you get a window to your next move. It's very powerful. And I just discovered the amazing transformation ability of that. And so I started just traveling around the world and doing these workshops based on my contacts that I had, chiropractic colleagues. They would just invite me to their offices, and I would teach it to their patients.
Yeah.
I just modeled it. I went to Atlanta, I went to the UK, I went to Detroit, I went to Australia. And the crazy part was, everywhere I would go, people would be like, oh my God, I want more. So slowly I transitioned that kind of 2 day event into an online 90-day program.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have online events and programs. And so it's both, well, before COVID hit, I had a 90-day kind of like program that also included a weekend. So I have these weekend workshops that I love doing, because it's like bringing people together and getting immersed, and kind of like a revival, getting into reconnected with the community. But then it's also carried the training and the accountability and the support also continues online with Zoom.
Yeah.
And then when COVID hit, I had to cancel all of my live events and moved everything online. And so
But how
here we are.
fortunate that you'd already started. And
Oh my gosh. It
yeah.
was like the greatest thing. My colleagues were all suffering
Yeah.
because they couldn't open up their practices. And then here I am having the most successful year of my career. So it was such a
Yeah.
great move.
Yeah.
I
guess
didn't feel that way at first,
no.
Joe. I was terrified
Yes.
making that leap. But as you know, this happens. But I never look back now.
No, and I guess this year was probably a time for a bit of sort of CPD from those people who weren't able to get up to their consulting rooms and see their people. It probably, not only were you online already, you gave people an opportunity to learn some stuff whilst they were, in limbo themselves, I guess. So
100%. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, look, now is the time. This was my position. I basically said, look, we don't know what the future holds. We're in lockdown. This was back in February, March. I started a new Facebook group called Trigger Proof. And I just said, look, I'm just going to come in here every day, and I'm going to give trainings that are going to help you get back into your body, get back into your heart, to regulate your nervous system, because that's what's going to determine if you win on the other side of this pandemic. And so all of a sudden that just grew to over 2,200 kind of people in the group, and my online events are rocking it, and people are transforming, and people are actually who participate are coming through the pandemic better off than they did going in.
And thank God. I mean, there's so much opportunity for it to go the opposite way. I mean, even simple things we talked to the beginning about, things like the whole working from home thing. It wasn't working from home, it was working from home during a crisis. None of this has been normal in terms of the backdrop, has it? So all that support to get people through is so valuable. So tell us what a day looks like for you. It's probably changed a bit now you've got a newborn baby.
Yeah, totally. So basically, it's pretty amazing. I'm so grateful that I can kind of be a dad, and I finish, for example, once I finish this interview, I'm just going to go snuggle with him and take him for a little walk, and the dogs. What's it like working and having a baby? Like it's amazing. A lot of time, like I'll do my group calls or my trainings and my Facebook lives, and then you can hear him, as you heard, probably him crying in the background. I mean, oh, that's my son. And I'm just really looking forward to this journey unfolding. It's been great, and I'm sleep hasn't been wonderful. But I realized that I don't know. This is the greatest love I've ever experienced, and it's made my purpose. This is the one thing that I've noticed. If I can be very selfish about this, it's given me such purpose behind what I do now, because the work that I do now, I stand for healed families. What this work of becoming trigger proof actually helps you break the cycle of intergenerational trauma that didn't start with you. And so when I'm teaching, I'm actually teaching so that Dominic, my son, can benefit. It's like I want him to be, I mean, he's born into this shit show of the world. It's like, hey, dude, sorry that we brought you into this. Like, sorry, but I want to give you the tools to be able to be of service to an impending mental health crisis. And so that's really what the focus of my work is to arm people with skills to be able to cope in a world where there is a impending mental health crisis surrounding us.
Yes, because it's much more talked about now. It's much more in the sort of public domain, the whole concept of mental health, but it's nowhere near sort of fixed or even sort of starting to be, is it?
And mental health is really it's incomplete. We can't talk about mental health if we keep ignoring the state of alarm that comes in the body because of unresolved childhood wounding. Mental health is all about somatic, is a somatic experience. We try to do, counselors and therapists and talk our way out of feeling problems. And I want to teach people that you can't think your way out of a feeling problem. You must actually learn how to feel your way out of it. We must show those younger parts, not tell them that they're safe. Essentially, coronavirus, it wasn't the problem. It's the fact that we already had a feeling of unsafety in our bodies before it hit. That's the real problem. And the focus of my work is addressing that problem, because when you address that problem, you then are able to take care of the surface issues.
Yes, yeah. It's funny, I just think sort of reflecting on, how people think about it. And obviously there's all host of different views on what things are going on. But I guess in some ways that whole thing about the narrative around children not being as affected by getting ill with it, and, sweeping statement generalization, because obviously that's not true for all of them. But I wonder if that's in some ways sort of insulating some of our younger people
Yeah.
we're having, I don't know about in Canada, we're having issues with lots of students, continuing to have parties and break rules and everything else. But I do
Yeah.
wonder actually if it's fairly positive that they don't understand the extent
Yeah.
of it.
Well, the impact on the kids comes from not so much, I'm not worried so much about like them getting about the virus itself. What's scarier is that children are watching us. Children are they're our greatest bullshit detectors. I mean, you have a 14-year-old, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So the second, Joe, that you are the slightest bit inauthentic and bullshitting her,
yeah,
she'll be able to call you out. She's
absolutely.
right. She's
Yeah.
like you can't pull a fast one on her. She is your greatest bullshit uh, accountability partner.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
right? So this is true of even my 1 month old. Let me give you an example. If I'm holding him and I'm scrolling through social media, my lack of presence with him, he can feel it and he starts to cry. Then all of a sudden, I put my phone down and I put my awareness onto him. Immediately, he stops crying. It's almost as though he feels the safety of my awareness and my presence. That was a huge lesson for me. I was like, oh my gosh, the
Mhm.
power of my attention, the focus of my attention is incredibly powerful. That's
Mm,
what I realized. And my child is picking it up.
yeah,
Also, my child is picking up the level of connection that I have with my wife. So if I have a kind of like a bullshit relationship with my wife that's really not connected, the attachment is not there, we have ruptures in our relationship,
yeah.
um, that will spill over to the child, and my child will feel that lack of safety.
Mm,
But
mm,
if I'm focusing on making sure that my attachment to myself, my level of well being within myself, my connection with myself, my nervous system is regulated, my relationship with my wife is connected, then he then thrives. Right. So
yeah,
in times of pandemic in this coronavirus, our children are looking up at us and seeing our behavior and watching how we deal with adversity. And their feeling of safety internally is pretty much governed by how we're like vibrating, the
yes,
energy that's coming off of us.
yeah.
So I don't take that responsibility lightly.
Mm,
And
mm,
so the foundation of my message is it's up to you to break the cycle of intergenerational trauma that didn't start with you. Look at how your parents dealt with conflict and adversity. Just observe how did they check out? Did they freak out? Did they run and hide? Did they bury their head in the sand? Did they act out and rage? Okay, great. That's how you modeled uh, your relationship with life. And without the proper training in self-regulation and co-regulation, you're now passing that down to children. And
yes.
so I just want to bring the awareness to stop the cycle and take
Mm,
responsibility, and I teach the tools and the training so that people can take full responsibility themselves and become trigger proof.
yes, yeah. And that we've talked about trigger proof already in the interview. Is that that's your sort of, I don't know, main outcome? Is it? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I thought about it. I was like, okay, what is it that we all want in this world? And
yeah.
I've been a chiropractor for 20 years, so I listen to people coming in with problems. And now, as a coach, people with varying relationship challenges, right? And the way that I operate, I'm always kind of wanting to go upstream, to go to the root cause of the root cause of the root cause of the root cause. Because I
Mm,
want to know if I can go upstream and solve that one problem, you know, because, it'll show up in a myriad of ways. Like how? Well, what are the problems? Well, codependency. I'm always showing up needy and I can't be myself in a relationship. So I hide my truth and I'm pleasing other people. Okay, what else? Well, I constantly attract the same type of partner who constantly treats me like shit. And I take it, and I don't have the power and the courage to leave. Okay, what else? Well, I'm always avoidant in relationships. Whenever a conflict happens, I want to run, and then I don't bounce back. Like, I can't get over it. Like, I hold on to things. I don't know how to let things go. I'm anxious all the time. My health is starting to decline. I don't feel safe in my body. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know how to get past this resistance. I'm procrastinating a lot, and I just don't like, I know what I want to do, but I'm so terrified of putting myself out there because what are people going to think of me? And then I realize, holy crap, these are not all separate problems. These are all the same problem. And the problem is that I don't have the ability and the confidence to sit in my uncomfortable emotions. I don't have the trust in my ability to produce results. And I don't have the confidence and trust in myself to be able to handle the consequences of my actions. All because I don't know how, because my triggers, when I get triggered, I lose consciousness, and I'm not in control of my life. What's controlling me is now these old unconscious complexes from childhood that I don't have the ability to regulate. And then boom, in that moment, I am not a functional adult. I am an 8-year-old child who wants mommy and daddy to come rescue them. And I'm like, oh, that's the root cause of your health problems, your relationship issues, the feeling of a lack of clarity and purpose.
Yeah.
And so instead of trying to heal your anxiety, which you're focusing on the anxiety, there's tons of books on hail anxiety, anxiety, anxiety. Well, if you just stop focusing on anxiety and then focus all of your efforts on integrating your triggers, then the anxiety goes away. Instead of trying to treat codependency, if you just work on becoming trigger proof, then when you get triggered, when your abandonment wounds get triggered in a relationship, which they're going to come up no matter who you're with if you have those wounds, then you're able to regulate yourself rather than needing somebody else to soothe you. If you are able to regulate your own emotions when they come up, you don't become an anxious mess constantly in your head trying to think thoughts to try to make sense of why your body is in a state of alarm and trying to catastrophize to try to create some sense of control. Your addictions, all of these things are an unconscious strategy to regulate your emotions when you haven't yet learned how to become trigger proof. Becoming trigger proof is the one skill that will transform every area of your life. It transformed mine, from your health to your relationships to your feeling of worthiness to your sense of entrepreneurship, working through resistance. All of it is an ability to self-regulate. And so that has become the topic that people write books about, stillness, and people who, Eckhart Tolle and all of these things, these spiritual teachers, these neuroscience people trying to get into flow. Essentially what we're doing is unconsciously we're seeking to learn how to regulate our emotions, to create fulfillment, to create deeper intimacy in our lives. It all comes from becoming trigger proof.
Thank you for that more detailed explanation. Definitely something to aspire to, I think. And so for people who want to do that, clearly you run programs that help people with that. What's their sort of first step?
The first step I have is really to learn how to change your relationship with your breath, and then connect with the younger parts of us. When we get triggered, we think that we're in control, but we're not. It's our child mind. It's our younger selves that are acting out. And so I kind of have this entry level, training. It's a 3-hour training called Breathwork and Badassery. I'll give you the link for it.
Yeah.
It's kind of something that breathwork and badassery. It's a training and a 1-hour meditation on breathing where you learn how to change your relationship and retrain your body in how to breathe properly, because your breath is the link between your conscious and your unconscious mind.
Yeah.
And so it's like I had to relearn how to breathe. If I just go back and connect to my breath, that inhale, exhale relationship, one to one, is my relationship with the universe. Inhale is receive, exhale is give. If I have a one to one give receive relationship with the universe, I have balance. But I realized that I wasn't even breathing properly. I'm breathing in, but it was like a shallow breath. So that means that I wasn't receiving abundance, prosperity. Didn't feel worthy of that. So to change that, I can sit there and do talk therapy, or I can start by giving myself permission to receive abundance through breath, and it's all around me. So that's the first kind of start. And the overview experience is the 5-hour training that I start my clients off in, where you learn how to heal those early attachment traumas. We find out where the root cause comes from, where that earliest belief was instilled on me, where that I didn't matter, that I wasn't enough. So we find it and we give you the tools in solving it. I'll give you the links below.
Cool. Lovely. Thank you. So last couple of questions. What about those days where it all goes horribly wrong for you? How do you deal with those?
Well, how I deal with those is to sit with the emotions and be willing to feel them. The problem isn't the feelings that come up, it's my resistance to those feelings. So it's not about feeling better, it's about getting better at feeling like shit. So what I do in those situations is I give myself full permission to feel like shit, and I have people around me that I trust. I'm like, really, I'm going through a really hard time and it's bringing up a whole bunch of stuff. Can I just emotionally dump on you and just express everything that's inside? And I have my team and all of the people that I have, the community that I have around me that are willing to listen to that and just hear me without fixing it. Just have me cry. Just a few days ago, I called my one of my team, and I just said, listen, I'm going through a really rough time and everything's falling apart. Can I just express? And I did. And I just literally just wailed and screamed in the phone, and I had a good cry and I released it. And I'm like, thank you. And just in the release and listening to the language, I was like, okay, how old do you feel, Nima? You feel about 9 years old there. That brought up a memory. And then after I was able to express it, then I'm able to really take care of that 9-year-old part of me. So when I have a shit day, I let myself have a shit day, and I give myself full permission and allowance and safety to feel like shit, which is the opposite of what most kind of personal development is like, oh, we got to numb that. We got to sedate that. We got to put a pill on that. Becoming trigger proof is about really getting good at feeling like shit and allowing those feelings to come up and move through you rather than suppress them or repress them because it's, because of social decencies.
Yeah. That's really powerful. Thank you. And what about those days where you get to live more? And that's where I say that you get to do more of the things that you want to do and less of the stuff that you don't want to do. What do those days look like for you?
Well, that is a conscious choose your own adventure. The first step to that is to, give yourself permission to dream that. A lot of people are stuck because they're like, oh, I don't know what I want to do. And the truth is, you do know. It's just you're telling the story of, I don't know what it is that I want, as a way of protecting yourself from feelings of failure. Mm-hmm. And so the first step is to really get good at feeling like a failure. Give yourself full permission to feel like a failure, because your unwillingness to feel like a failure is stopping you from living more, is stopping you from reaching and going out there and choosing your own adventure. And so basically it comes down to writing out exactly what it is, giving yourself full permission, and getting your mind and body engaged in the doing of that without like in your feeling, in your body. So it starts, living more starts with a thought and a feeling. And this morning before I got on a call with you, I started to envision and feel into, because we live in a 2-bedroom condo, just got married this year. So it's like I've been living the bachelor life. And now it's like, okay, it's time for a house. Well, guess what? I'm at a house with an office, with a studio in it, where I can do presentations and my trainings. I'm actually living it in my mind and my body. And I'm giving myself full permission. And what you do is each and every day you acknowledge how your dreams are coming true. You acknowledge evidence. You look for evidence of your vision manifesting. Because if you don't count the small wins and incremental progress, you always have what's called the horizon effect. You're looking ahead and going, oh, I'm not there, going towards the horizon, and then you never get there. So it's really about pausing and looking, where am I actually living it now? And the truth is, I am living it now. I'm living this in this exact moment, this conversation. If you told me 5 years ago that I'll be having this conversation in this beautiful apartment with my beautiful family, just right here, I would have told you I'm living the dream. So because of the horizon effect, I'm going to day to day look at my life and go, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. So it's really important to stop and look back and acknowledge where you are living it daily. That's how it works for me.
Yes. Yeah. Lovely. Thank you. So tell people how they can find out more and get in touch with you.
Mm-hmm. My website is right there. I'll leave you the link. It should be in the show notes. It's drnima.com. And my Facebook group, it's called Trigger Proof group. It's called Trigger Proof. I'll just put it in the chat box there for you. You can grab it.
Lovely.
And I have if you reach out to me and let me know on social media, Instagram at Dr Nima. If you send me a DM and let me know what was relevant for you, if this was meaningful, send me a DM. Let me know what your biggest takeaways were, what landed for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I'll do is I'll send you a 90-minute training for free with a promo code that teaches you the steps that I take my clients through with case studies that take you through learning how to become trigger proof.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Dr. Nima. Great to speak to you today.
Thank you for having me.
All this information is available in the show notes. If you go to powertolivemore.com/189, then you'll find them there. And this week, I'd just like to firstly say Happy Christmas, or should I say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and hope you have a really good one. I know it's going to be different for most of us this year, but hopefully you can find some joy in the situation that you're in and take the time to really relax, enjoy yourself, eat, drink and be merry and all that sort of thing, and really take the opportunity of that downtime to help you to recharge and get ready for 2021. And on that note, I am running 2 sessions in the Power to Live More Calm membership in January to firstly think about your best 12 months ever, and doing some planning around what that looks like. And then the second session will be all about creating your content for the year. So how you can create a structure and come up with the topics and some titles and some idea of how you're actually going to create the content and repurpose your content for the rest of the year. And so that's for members of Power to Live More Calm, and it's normally £37 a month to be a member. But for the next month, I'm offering a promotion where it'll just be £1 to join, and then after the first month it'll go back up to the £37, just to give you that chance to get in, try the membership site out, come along to those sessions and really get that value. And then obviously, hopefully, I hope you'll stay with us, but you don't have to, there's no obligation, you can just cancel. So if you want to just come and do those 2 sessions and pay your £1, then you're very welcome to do that, and we'd love to see you there. So please do hop over to powertolivemore.com/Jan offer, and that'll tell you more about what's happening at the sessions, and it'll also give you the discount code in order to get that first month for £1. And if you can't make the dates that are on there, please do get in touch and let me know, because I'm thinking about running another couple of dates, but I haven't put those in yet. But I certainly will do that if there are people who really want to come but aren't able to come to those dates that we already have scheduled. So that's powertolivemore.com/Jan offer.
And I'd just like to say thank you so much for being a listener to the podcast. We've been going now since, I don't know where, since about Ellie was 8. We're heading towards show number 200 in a couple of months' time, and we're just so grateful that you keep listening to the show and hopefully find it interesting. We're publishing today on the 18th of December, and we're going to take a couple of weeks break over the Christmas and New Year period. So our next show will be on the 8th of January, so that's show 190. So not too long till we get to our 200th show. We haven't quite planned what we're going to do for that to make it special. If you remember, if you're a long-term listener, we had Stroppy Teenager being interviewed on the 150th show, I think. Or maybe it was the 100th show, and I think it was 150th. So we're thinking perhaps not so much of the Stroppy Teenager for the 200th show. So watch this space, but we'll see how that goes. So anyway, have a great Christmas and New Year. If you're interested in joining the sessions in January, then go to powertolivemore.com/Jan offer. Have a great time, and we look forward to speaking to you on the 8th of January.
Use your power to live more.